Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Geek TV. If you're anything like us, you'll have just finished watching the latest episode of Doctor Who, Into the Dalek. Joining me as always to review the latest episode, Morgan Jeffery, our TV editor and Doctor Who expert. Say hello, Morgan.
Hello.
New episode, second episode from Peter Capaldi. Last week's episode got mixed reviews, I think mixed reviews from both of us. What did you think of Into the Dalek?
I thought Into the Dalek was actually a lot stronger. I know last week I thought that, while Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman were very strong, the script was overlong, a little messy, a little muddled. Whereas this, I thought was, back to the 45-minute format, I thought it was a lot sharper, a lot more focused, a lot tighter. The dialogue, especially in the early going, is very, very tight, very sharp, very witty, very funny. I just thought this was a much stronger episode overall. The
scene with Dalek, with Rusty and Capaldi, it was a little bit Malcolm Tucker-esque, I think.
Ranty,
did you think? Did you really think that was kind of him laying down his marker as the Doctor?
Yeah, I definitely thought this episode and that scene in particular, Capaldi really made his mark. Last week you had to deal with the whole post-regeneration mania, and this week it felt like it was the real beginning of the Peter Capaldi era for me. He delivered a very strong, very, very confident performance. An immediate contrast, I think, to his predecessors, because David Tennant and Matt Smith, well, they were very different to each other, but they were both these bundles of energy, whereas Capaldi's very different. He's very calm, very controlled, and very cool. You see that right from the first scene with him and Zawe Ashton in the TARDIS. He's very kind of mercurial and moody and very cool, and I really liked his Doctor in this episode. Last week I was a little bit maybe not warming to him, still missing Matt Smith a little bit. This week I wasn't just looking around for Matt, I was just kind of transfixed by Capaldi.
The whole theme through this appears to be, Capaldi's playing the Doctor, so it's a darker Doctor, it's a grittier Doctor.
Yeah, is he a good man?
Is he a good man?
Yeah.
And these question marks. Both episodes so far has been bits where, oh, is he a bit darker? And I kind of feel at the end of it all, maybe the end of this series, that they'll probably go, no, he's a good man. And that'll be he's obviously going to be a good man.
I disagree, though. I think you can bring a slightly sinister edge to the Doctor. I think it's maybe something that you lost with, Pally David Tennant and wacky Matt Smith. As much as I loved both of them, you maybe did lose that sinister edge a little bit. But, a lot of the older Doctors, you watched the first episode ever back in 1963, William Hartnell's very sinister, and he is almost the villain of that episode who kidnaps these two school teachers.
So when you put it like that...
Well, there we go. And, I think you really could bring a sinister edge to the Doctor, while still, he is still fundamentally a hero, as you say.
We have to talk quickly about Danny Pink, who's a new character that's come in, new love interest for Clara. Did you enjoy his character? He seemed like he was shoehorned in slightly, but...
Yeah, I did. I like the character. I think he's, he's kind of a character you don't see often in Doctor Who. He's just kind of a regular bloke. You don't get a lot of those in Doctor Who. And I thought Samuel Anderson, he made a good debut. My only concern with his scenes in this episode was, as you say, it felt a little bit shoehorned. You had basically 10 minutes where he pops up and it's made very clear in quick succession he's a teacher. He's also a soldier, he's also sensitive because he cries, and he fancies Clara. That's everything you need to know about his character in like 3 short scenes. And, it feels a little bit like Moffat's itching to get back, of course, to the spaceships and the Daleks and that sort of thing.
Do you think perhaps it was a waste of the Daleks? Some people often complain that they're overused.
Yeah.
I think perhaps, especially as we got to see maybe a sensitive Dalek for the first time, it was kind of, does that undermine them as the great villains of the series?
Well, for me, that was the interesting twist in this episode, because, as you say, a lot of people complain that the Daleks are overused. I personally, I still enjoy seeing the Daleks. When you had the first shot of the Dalek in this episode, I still get a little kind of childish thrill. But
you're so immature.
But I think there is a danger of overusing them if they're just rolled out because they're familiar, because they're popular. That's the danger. I think if you bring them back, you have to make sure you've got an interesting story to tell with them, and you've got a new twist on the Daleks each time. And that's what I liked about Into the Dalek, is it didn't just roll them out to blow stuff up and, hey, it's the Daleks. It actually
just, now there's 50 million Daleks.
Exactly.
There's even more.
An even bigger Dalek army, exactly, which the show has sometimes been guilty of. It had something interesting to say, not only about kind of the Daleks, but it also used the Daleks to reflect on the new Doctor in an interesting way, and who is he and his personality. So I really liked their return in this episode, and I'm more than open to them coming back, as I say, as long as they have there's a point to them being there, as long as there's something interesting to do with them.
I know from reading the comments on the site, there were some question marks about Clara and how does she not know about regenerations of Doctors? Last week she was incredibly confused.
Yeah.
Can you explain in a nutshell where she is and how she is?
Yeah, there was some confusion last week, because not only has Clara, or versions of Clara, met all of the Doctors, But we see this version of Clara in the 50th meet, at the very least, you know, 2 more Doctors. So she's aware that he can have different faces. She's aware that regeneration exists as a concept. And yet she completely freaks out when he turns from Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi. My reasoning for that is, I think it would maybe be an easier idea to deal with if you've still got your mate at your side. You know, it's fine to say, oh yeah, John Hurt is Matt Smith if you've still got Matt Smith there to comfort you. If Matt Smith's gone, I'm not sure she would have been so happy if she'd just been lumbered with John Hurt, as lovely as a man as he is. So I think it is different if you take Matt Smith away and you just plonk Peter Capaldi in his place. I think last week her issues were more with I've lost my friend than I don't understand what regeneration is, which is what some fans kind of interpreted it as.
Oh, it's a very good explanation.
Stephen I've been
Moffat,
thinking about it.
Stephen Moffat would be proud of that one.
Don't steal my ideas, Moffat. That's what I'm saying.
Got some other reader comments from our wonderful readers at Digital Spy. Please do keep leaving your comments under the video reviews, and the best and funniest ones we will read out. Definitely a mixed response to Deep Breath last week, to put it politely. But Danny Snape, so it was the worst Doctor Who episode yet, colourless and soulless, dull Saturday night viewing.
Tell us what you really think, man, seriously.
Luke Adams responded by saying, I thought it was a great episode, better than anything done between 2010 and 2013.
Again, a little strong. It's you know, for me, it's somewhere in between the two.
John Ronson said it stunk. Clunker of a plot. A lot of people say Moffat's out of ideas. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were some criticisms last week, you know, that he was kind of recycling, you know, old characters and a few of his old tropes. But that's what I liked about Into the Dalek, actually. I felt that it felt a lot fresher for me. It felt like, you know, the start of a new era in a way that Deep Breath, with a few of its kind of Matt Smith era hangovers with, like, you know, Vastra and Jenny and Strax, it did feel a little bit like, you know, still tying up a few loose ends from the Matt Smith era. This, to me, as I say, felt like the start of the Peter Capaldi era.
OCD Girl says, as someone who disliked Matt Smith, this is a Doctor I can get on board with. Peter Capaldi is a great actor, and I can't wait to see what he does in the role. Didn't seem to be, a lot of people didn't seem to like the episode, but there didn't seem to be anyone who didn't like Capaldi.
Well, and that's pretty much reflecting our opinions from last week, where issues with the script maybe, but, you know, Capaldi himself, great, and I think, as much as I liked the kind of relationship between Matt Smith, Doctor, and Clara, I feel like maybe she does work better with Capaldi, or maybe Moffat's just writing the character more like an actual person now, not just like a plot device or a mystery to be solved. But their relationship was great last week. It's great this week. It's proof that you need that's not enough. As great as those two are, you need a solid plot and a solid script to back it up as well.
And the final thing I have to bring up, Paul Williams, who the hell gave a 3-year-old the job of redoing the theme tune? The controversial theme tune.
We have discussed this, you know, off camera as well. The new title sequence, which is based on that fan video on YouTube, that I quite like. The theme tune, I'm really not a fan of. I feel like it sounds like kind of like a rejected theme tune from the 80s.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I love 80s theme tunes.
You do love the 80s theme tune. You can't get enough of Kef McCulloch. But you know, the thing with the theme tune is Murray Gold, he's been doing Doctor Who's music since it came back in 2005. And the poor guy has had to come up with a new theme tune, you know, or a new variation on the familiar Doctor Who theme tune pretty much every year, and it just feels like, you know, eventually you're going to run out of good ones. And this time, you know, I love Murray, but he's landed on a stinker with this one. I hope it doesn't stick around much longer.
Just start recycling, and people will forget. People will go, oh, this is great.
Bring back the one from 2005. It was great. It had the orchestra. It was brilliant. Bring that back.
Exactly. So that's it for this week. We'll be back next week for Robots of Sherwood. Slightly waiting, a little bit concerned about the episode. It looked a bit cheesy.
It looked a bit camp, yeah.
Yeah. You got any fears about that?
I'm not 100% Sure about it. I'll tell you that. So there we go.
Morgan, you said you had a pun. I wish I hadn't given you the opportunity to do it. But that's all for this week. Please join us again next week after Robots of Sherwood for more Geek TV.